Hello there, listeners, and thank you for joining us on the CATCast, Chatham Area Transit's podcast where we focus on everything local transit and Chatham County. Get ready for an electrifying episode of CATCast, hosted by CAT's Executive Director and CEO, Faye DiMassimo. Joining her are two distinguished guests. Please welcome the esteemed President and CEO of the American Public Transportation Association, Paul Skoutelas, and CAT's very own board chairman, Deidrick Cody. With this powerhouse lineup, you can expect an engaging conversation that delves deep into the world of public transportation, exploring its current challenges, exciting developments, and the visionary leadership driving the industry forward.
Well, welcome back to CATCast, the podcast of all things transit in Chatham and Savannah. We welcome you back, and today is a special day. We are Chairman Deidrick Cody, the board chair of the CAT board, and I are welcoming Paul Skoutelas, who is the president and CEO of the American Public Transportation Association, APTA, which is our national organization. Paul, welcome to Savannah.
Well, thank you, Faye, very much. I'm excited to be here. It's such a beautiful city, and having the occasion to come here and chat with you and the chairman is a great opportunity that I'm really looking forward to.
Very good. Well, we've got a lot of exciting things going on at Chatham Area Transit, and this week we ordered up a little sunshine for you. If you'd been here last week, it was raining every day.
I love the sunshine. Thank you for that extra bonus.
Very good, very good. Transit is changing locally and nationally. We're going to talk about that for a minute. We'll start off with sort of nationally. What are the big takeaways, Paul, in this time of change?
Well, you really coined the word change because the pandemic, of course, changed so many things across the globe. So not just in our country or our cities, but across the world. Some of it not so good. You know, we saw so many people suffer and pass away through the pandemic. It has touched every industry sector, and certainly public transportation has been affected dramatically. You know, just in summary, we saw a 90% drop in ridership for transit systems on average across the country. Everything came to a standstill. And yet our bus operators, our mechanics, our maintenance, our frontline people, and staff as well, came to the office, came to work, they did their jobs. And I saw a sign that you had posted out there, heroes are here. And it's so true. People put themselves on the line without really knowing what the consequences was going to be of the COVID and whether they were putting themselves in danger as well. I think as a result, the public responded to that, understanding that public transportation is an essential service. People need it. Our communities depend upon it. So I think that has changed public transit as it has so many industries in many, many different ways. I think what I've seen is nationally, first of all, it's recovering. We're not back to 100% of what we were pre-pandemic, but the trend line is up. We're about 75% on average across the country in terms of retaining ridership, bringing back riders. I think our agencies have gotten more nimble and more forward-looking, more adaptable in terms of adjusting to the new needs that our customers and our communities have. So we're seeing new innovations in terms of service delivery models, which I know you're doing a lot here. Technology is another, and just being more aware of what our communities need. And so those are some of the changes that I see that have really taken root. Some of these things were kind of underway before, but the pandemic really accelerated them and has brought them to a kind of another level. And I'm really pleased to see that, because I think for too long, public transportation was looked at. It's the same entity, the same business, the same way we do things. Yes and no. Yes, we still operate buses, and in some cases trains, and here ferries as well, and paratransit, but we're doing it with a whole different mindset, and I think that's going to hold us in good stead going forward.
I think one of the things that it's interesting that you point that out, one of the things that I see is going to be the biggest change industry-wide, nationally, and even internationally, is the notion of, I think transit, to your point, was viewed a certain way and it operated a certain way for a very long period of time. And it was just the business model that was in place. In a way, COVID shook us out of all of that complacency or that certainty of what we thought, right? And made us start to certainly be more customer driven in a way that, not that we hadn't always been customer driven, but think about people's desires these days to be able to call up something on an app and just catch the ride right there and go to the place where they need or want to go. And
Everything's very individualized and customized, and we were not necessarily in that form. I think what you call being nimble. Chairman can talk a little bit about some of the things that we're doing to be more nimble, I think.
Yes, what's helped us out is having a great CEO to come in and take command of our organization. What it does is brings transparency to transit. And when we do that, where we're coming from, the pandemic, as you stated earlier, Paul, it's changed us. As she said, now we're getting more innovation, more innovative ideas, and thank God we got a CEO that's ready and up for the task. And as a board, we are working side by side with her and staff, going with their ideas, because they have very good ideas. I think the pandemic, to me, has actually improved our relationship with our CEO and the organization and the people around us. So we are moving in a very positive direction, and I'm very excited.
I like what you've described here, because it does take a board, a good functioning board, and leadership at the CEO level together to be working on these issues. The industry is a difficult one. It's not easy, and there are a lot of challenges along the way, and there are going to be some ups and downs. Hopefully, far more ups than the downs. But having that understanding, that trust, that respect for one another, board and CEO, goes a long way. I've been in this industry for my entire career. I won't say how many years, but a long, long time. And I know that here it's been somewhat unstable at times. You haven't had the stability. Faye is here. She provides that leadership. She's not only stable, but she's forward-thinking. And you, as the chair and the board, are committed to working together to help the community. And I think that's really what it takes. It takes that kind of commitment. And it's gratifying for me to see that. I get a chance to travel all around the country. And when I see that it's evident, it gives me great hope that we're on the good path in terms of making a difference in our communities.
Yes, sir.
In order to be forward-thinking, you have to have a great board.
You do.
And
you do. I
one
agree.
of the things that we've been able to do is you mentioned ridership levels, and where ridership levels have recovered to, no one's really back at 100%, or maybe just a very, very few. And so the notion of, I think our ridership profile has changed a bit, and that's why I think tools like microtransit, and it's going to be interesting to see how microtransit and what has been traditional paratransit. I know when Mass Transit Magazine came out last month and said that maybe paratransit was a little bit of an archaeology now, and I went, whoa. I mean, that kind of took you back for a minute, and you started thinking about, well, it's true, because we have new tools for service, and we have tools that can provide perhaps the service in a better or more nimble or more customized way. And we were very proud, and Paul, I know that you're aware of this, when USDOT came out this year with a new grant program called SMART. We applied along with 394 of our colleagues across the country, and only 59 were selected, only 7 were transit related, and only 4 were from transit agencies proper. We were one of them.
Isn't that incredible? That should make you so very proud to know that you're doing good things and are looking ahead and looking for new ways to innovate. I think that speaks volume for what the board and you as the staff and as the leader of the staff are doing. So I commend you.
The board has enabled that kind of leadership. And I wanted to, just for a minute, for our audience to brag on, too, what was so different about it. It's microtransit, which is a new service model. It's electric microtransit, which no one else has done in their microtransit service models around the country. We chose not to contract out. We are using our ATU Local 1324 operators to provide that service, and we're doing it in partnerships with other community organizations that are willing to help support and help make that happen. It's an incredible thing to think about what's going to be prototyped and demonstrated here. We're going to have 2 prototype zones in West Chatham that are going to really serve to connect people to jobs, and then another in East Savannah that's going to demonstrate more about the community connectivity. So it's exciting.
Well, I love what you're doing, and it's no surprise to hear you describe it as to why you were selected. You're really thinking ahead about how to put together all the critical elements, true public-private partnership that doesn't overlook the employee, right? You're utilizing your labor force, your unions to do that. I'm sure they're thrilled about that they're not overlooked, that they're really part of this new service model. And so I think you're breaking new ground. And so many others will be watching what you're doing here to see if they could replicate it as well. All kinds of systems across the country, big and small, because we do need, as an industry, always to be looking for ways to do something a little differently, a little better, more efficient, and again, meeting the needs of the community. And that clearly is what you're doing with this proposal and soon the service model that you'll be delivering.
Chairman, you might want to comment on what we're doing to deepen those community partnerships. You know a lot about that.
Yeah, on our community partnerships, we have a CEO that's on board that's directly connected to our local officials. She's doing the due diligence of getting to know the community, getting out there in the community. We are learning the community. So what I see in our CEO is she comes with all these innovative ideas. And we actually have board members, the Clinton administrators that's on our board that's had very good ideas about a lot going on. We have board members that's in every direction that you can imagine as far as being in the world, in our city.
Right.
And everybody is back in our community, getting our community involved. Mr. Massimo is making meetings, as she had touched out to you.
Mm-hmm.
She brought you in, and it just shows us as a board that we have a leader that's going in the right direction, and it's just, she's relentless. She's on it. So for me, I'm thrilled to death.
Yeah. Well, I have to say to you that when you think about the job that has to be done, which is, again, I think in the bottom line, so to speak, is you got to serve your community well and understand what the community needs and wants. And you can't do that without the right partnerships and the right energies.
Yes.
And that, again, it transforms not only what the staff can bring, but the board, because you all bring something different to the table. And it's having the smarts, as you do, and the way to bring that together to make it a really powerful combination. That's what I'm seeing here, Faye, in our prior conversations and watching what you're doing here. And I think that it's a recipe for success.
Well, community building is such an important part of this, and I mentioned that grant. Another thing that we're doing through that is we've reached out and we're in a partnership with Savannah Tech to do additional training for our operators and our maintenance folks to build their capacity on electric vehicles. And then we're also going to be doing training with our operators on the rider match technology that is being used as a part of the deployment of the SMART grant effort. So again, all of everything, whether it's the technology or the vehicle type or the charging infrastructure, we want to be sure that our operators, our maintenance folks, our staff have the opportunity to build, and it's part of the community too. It's about building community so we're a stronger community. We've got people with more talents, more skills, different career paths, stronger career paths, and that's an important part of all this as well.
You have me as both a fan and a believer. That is the way I think it has to be done. And what you're doing is leveraging your assets in this greater community, right?
Absolutely.
The college, Georgia Tech, other institutions, they all have a certain set of expertise and capacity, and you're leveraging that, so it makes you even that much more powerful.
Every bit of it. So what do you think are the critical skills needed by transit agencies and the industry to be successful in the future? It seems like our critical skill set's changing a little bit. What do you think?
Well, I think first at a basic level, you need the best talent you can get. Because as I said a moment ago, these organizations, in terms of the mandate that they have, it's a daunting challenge. It's not easy. You're managing a workforce, labor management relationships, community relationships. You need to have great talent across the board with all the key functions, certainly the CEO, but the finance area, the planning area, the operations area. But I think the skill sets that are most valued and I think really are in demand, an ability of an organization, and this I think goes to the CEO and to the board, to be good collaborators. You've used that term, to collaborate, to know what that really means. Mm-hmm. It's finding common solutions to common issues that the community is saying, we need help, and finding a way to work with them effectively and deliver is huge. Being good listeners, because we don't want to be accused, and I think that I've seen this happen as well. Oftentimes agencies see themselves, hey, our responsibility is we operate the buses or we operate the trains or the ferries. Well, that's part of it. The other part of it is understand what your community expects from you, how you can add value, and that goes back to the term you use, being a community builder. And I know that's what you've embraced here. The board has embraced, and you've embraced this notion of we're community builders. How can we do things that are going to help this community? And operation of the buses and the paratransit and the ferry, I mean, that's one piece of it. But you got to be able to do more than that to be effective, in my judgment. And then being good listeners, to listen to what others are saying. Transit by itself isn't the means to the end here. You've got to figure out what your community really aspires to, and then where the transit component fits in. And it's all about the people. It's all about the people in our communities and our cities, that we need to enhance their lives. Public transit is certainly a key piece of all of that. It's figuring out how you can best do that with your community. So those are the things that I think stand out for me, in addition to the good technical knowledge and skill sets that every organization needs.
Something we do every single time now is we reach out to all kinds of community organizations for partnerships now on a lot of different things. It's an important thing to do because none of us can do this all by ourselves.
Right.
But one of the things that I've routinely gotten in the habit of, and I have always been in the habit of, but I think it's an even more important thing in an industry like ours, is when I call to ask for that partnership help on something, I never leave that call without saying, what can we do to help you? Or
That's
just making
attitude.
those calls
Yeah.
out of the blue and saying, I know that y'all are struggling with X or Y. What can CAT do to help you? Because if we're a part of problem solving throughout the community, then that makes us even more valuable. And I think that that's an important part.
And Mr. Chairman, I think you would agree with this notion that when you do that, when you're really reaching out and looking for ways to work together, and you have some successes, other institutions, entities, organizations, public or private, then look to you. You'll get a phone call. You'll get a phone call saying, hey, we've got some issues. Can you help us here? Can you work with us? And that's what you want.
And that creates opportunity.
That's what you want. You don't want to be here alone,
No.
trying to solve the world's problems or the community's problems. It's going to take a lot. And being on the list of those who they get in touch with to talk to enlist their support, their ideas, then you know you're on your path to helping this community grow.
Yes, as you stated, it's going to take a collaboration of us all. Ever since the CEO came in, we see her hard work and due diligence. And as a board, we've made changes also. We now have a committee set up where we have board members that going to ride the bus. See, we want to know from the ground running what our community involvement looks like.
Right.
We want to know what our passengers think. We want to know how's our system affected across the world. And like you said, we are definitely looking to be those go-to guys. Our plan is simple. We got a great CEO, we got a great board that's corresponding with one another, complete transparency. And what we are looking to do is be that innovative idea, that innovative company where we can have other companies come do what we do. They want to implement us. So,
I love what you're describing. It's exciting.
It is exciting.
It's exciting, and I would say, if not 100%, 99% of the people want to be a part of an organization like that that has that kind of an attitude, because it's easy in these roles sometimes to fall into a rut. Mm-hmm. And you kind of do what you do, and you lose your excitement and your enthusiasm. And if you can maintain that level of confidence about what the future might bring and how you can help improve it,
yes, sir.
That's a motivator for everybody.
I think one of the biggest partnerships that we're working on with our board right now that's so important as well is CAT has undertaken over this last year a new master transit plan. Mm-hmm. And it's really gone into looking at where are we now, where are we going to be, not for the next 20 years, but for the next 10. Mm-hmm. Let's take that bite of the future that we can really begin to influence and make a difference in now, and set ourselves up. And 10 years is about right, and that's right now in this world of funding that we're in. That's probably a more reasonable window of opportunity to define. But we're looking at the things like, how can we strengthen our fixed route system? And instead of just running more fixed route, let's run stronger fixed route. Then let's bring in the micro transit and figure out how that partners between the fixed route and the paratransit needs in a way that's most effective in serving the community. And then let's look at things like, besides our ferry service, let's also look at things like Commuter Express, where we've got a incredibly growing economic market here, not just in Chatham County, although it's very strong as well, but also in Bryan County and Effingham County nearby us. The chairman can tell you we've got one of the largest, as a matter of fact, I believe it is the largest economic development project in the state that's ever occurred with the Hyundai Meta plant, they call it, that's going to be producing electric vehicles and all the associated battery suppliers
impressive.
And all those kinds of
That
things.
is impressive.
And they're starting to figure out how are they going to get people to and from jobs. And so we've already, raised our hand and said we need to be in your toolkit. We're not your only solution, but we've got to be a valuable part of it.
But you want to be at the table to see what contributions you can make to that. I think that's absolutely the right way, the right perspective on it. And it's very exciting that you're heading down this path.
And those are the ideas that we were talking about. You're talking about a plant that's probably hadn't broken ground yet, but we already have our CEO and staff on it. So we are moving.
Well, and that's important because too often you hear the stories that say there's a facility that's just opened there, and then for the first time they're asking, well, how are we going to get our employees here? And so after the fact, they've already opened, they're there, they're expecting transit to come and meet that need. That's really not the best way to do it. The best way is at the very early stage, have the dialogue, see what can be done. So again, kudos to you on that.
Let me talk to you about one of the key needs
Sure.
that we have, and this is going to be a little. It's in the topics of questions that we had talked about, but this is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Of course, you were at the TOPS Commission meeting on
Yes.
Friday. I
Yeah.
was also there virtually, and that very first report about operators and the operator shortages and operator recruitment and all that. That was a fascinating report to me. We've downloaded it. We're digging into all however many hundreds of pages of it there are, looking for those kernels of solutions and opportunities. Operator recruitment was not just impacted by COVID, but it's impacted in what's happening between the generations. The younger operators that we're talking to, they're not that concerned about pensions. They're not that concerned about, they want flexibility and they don't want to take as long to earn it. The senior drivers that have been around that for seniority is everything are looking at that and going, what?
Yep.
And so that dynamic, that generational dynamic, in addition to what COVID did in the workplace, all those things kind of coming together in a perfect storm. What are your
I think
thoughts?
you're absolutely right. This newer generation has a whole different set of priorities and how they look at life. Again, I'll go back to my own career and what I saw in transit, both at the properties that I've managed, but also around the industry. When you talked about taking a bus operator position or a frontline position of any kind, those were some of the most coveted positions anywhere. Good wage, good pension. You needed a high school degree, but not a college degree, so the entry was fairly easy. You would have people lined up for blocks waiting to apply for those jobs. What we've now seen in the last few years, that's not the case. It's hard to fill those jobs. And why? Because it goes back, Faye, to what you described. There's a different set of expectations among this generation. They want more flexibility. They're not sure they want to wait 5 years or 10 years to operate a decent route, meaning that they're at the very bottom of the seniority list. And so a whole different set of expectations in their minds about the kind of opportunities they want. And of course you have the proliferation of what I'll call the e-commerce, the FedExes, the Amazons that now provide another work opportunity, which is great in many respects, right? But it makes it more challenging for transit to attract that rider or that employee. What I've seen, though, in thinking about this, is it just the U.S.? But this is a worldwide phenomenon.
Exactly.
In the last number of months, I've been both to Spain and Germany. I've had similar conversations. You'll hear almost the same kind of conversations and discussions about the fact that the generations have changed and they have a workforce shortage as well. So we're not alone in this. This is something that's much larger than just what's happening in our community or even in our country. And we have to think about ways, I think this is going to take a lot of work and collaboration, ways to attract those employees. And transit's going to have to find a way, and it's not easy given the labor environments, but find a way to be more flexible.
Yes, that goes to our team and Mr. Massimo again, because we are in the local colleges. We are in the local trade school, secondary tech, Savannah Tech, and we recruiting, so to speak, for training purposes, to bring them to the idea of transit, to let everybody know the importance of transit, where transit has come, where it's going. So we steadily moving in the future. We got to move in the future.
And you know what, Mr. Chair, it's also to let people know, especially people that are young people, high schoolers, they're in college, perhaps they're in trade school. There are great opportunities here. They see a bus and they don't make the connection of an opportunity other than maybe driving the bus. But there's so much behind almost any kind of job you can imagine. Driving a bus is fine, being a mechanic, being in the office, maybe you're an accountant, maybe you're a planner. These are all the kind of jobs that transit has. And as we move to the future, we're seeing more and more of movement into technology as we're adapting technology. So there's great opportunities there to really not only have a great job, but to do some challenging, meaningful work.
So the other thing that I think is a challenge in the industry, and we certainly have talked about it in APTA meetings, is safety and security. In addition to those things that we just talked about, whether that's the seniority or whatever it might be in the operator space, I don't know how many operators I've talked to that have said, I'm not driving the same people that I'm not carrying the same people, passengers that I was carrying 15 years ago. This is different. And the notion of how we are safeguarding for that, how we are managing that, how we're doing the very best we can in a very uncertain world. That's another one of those changes, to your point, that's not just been seen in the U.S., but has seen in lots of places. The struggles that we have right now, we're like on the cutting edge of a lot of things. And I have no doubt that we're going to be successful on the other side. On the operator side, one of the things I keep thinking, especially with a growth in microtransit, is I'm like, if you've been driving for Uber or Lyft, I think you might really be interested in being microtransit for us, because it's a similar kind of operation, but the job is a different, perhaps, kind of opportunity for you with benefits and such.
Right.
But that safety and security piece is something that we really struggle with. Every community deals with the homelessness issues. We're dealing with those weapons and all the stuff that operators are seeing now that they would have never seen 15, 20, 30 years ago.
Well, that's so true. And as you rightly said, I mean, it is one of the very top issues for the industry, because what we've seen coming through the pandemic, and maybe this was a trend, but it certainly has accelerated, and that is just what I'll put under the broader umbrella, social disorder. We're seeing crime, and we're seeing the homelessness and drugs at a level that we just hadn't seen before. I mean, not that it didn't exist, but this is really kind of spiked up, and it makes transit's job that much more difficult.
It does.
That operator's got to be on the street, open that door to let people on. They're concerned. They're concerned about their welfare, as they rightly should be. And I think that, here again, public transit isn't creating this. But as a society, these are societal issues, and we need help. Transit needs help to deal with them, whether it's city leadership, some of the institutions, to understand that this is our collective set of challenges, not just public transit challenges, even though we're kind of on the front line, so to speak.
I'll give you a great story in that regard, and this is not the only time this has happened, but you just reminded me that this is the most recent time that it's happened, and it goes back to what the chairman was talking about us being a part of the community and being in the community. Is Saturday morning I was driving up to Atlanta and got a phone call and got pictures of a particular stop that we have where there was an unhomed resident who had taken up their home within our shelter and our stop, and it was deterring others who were trying to catch the bus. There was an awful lot of everything they had in the world right there. And so what we did was we dispatched the amenities team out there to get everything cleaned up, make it be safe and comfortable for everyone, and then we called the Savannah Homelessness Authority and got them engaged, and they've gone out and engaged with her to help her find the services and the places. So we didn't just clear it out and go, okay, done with that. We addressed the situation for our passengers and our operators and so forth, got the cleanup done, but then we also made sure that we helped this person.
Well, I applaud you and your team for that. Again, it's caring about your community. and doing your part, maybe going a little extra to let people know that you care, that the system cares. CAT cares about what's happening in the community, and these are very real problems that people are facing, and we all have a sense of responsibility to do what we can.
It was really well received by our operators too, because we got it dealt with very quickly, and then when they realized that we weren't just cleaning up the stop, but we were helping her, I started getting texts from operators going, "That was like really cool."
There you go. There you go. People observe, don't they?
They do. They watch what you do.
They observe. They absolutely observe.
And this is the climate that we want to be in.
Yeah.
We want to be in the helping community climate. We want everybody to be happy. So it's very good. Kudos out to our CEO
absolutely.
staff.
I'll say it's a tough job, but it's a gratifying job.
Yes.
To know that you're making a difference in your community.
Well, you go from the days where you're applauding getting a SMART grant for $1.2 million to you're helping the person who's unhomed at one of your stops.
There you go.
And it's like that you run the full gamut of everything on any given day if you work for a train. That's not just the CEO. That's our entire team.
That's why the industry is a challenging industry in terms of who all you touch and who you impact potentially.
So we've talked a lot about partnerships. Tell us some of the partnerships that you've seen across the country that you think are especially sort of exemplary and noteworthy. I know that we love to brag on ourselves, and we'll sit here, Chairman and I will sit here for the rest of the afternoon and tell you our stories. But we'd love to hear some of those.
Well, first let me just tell you, with all of what you're doing, you should keep in mind the APTA Awards program.
Yes.
I don't know if it's this cycle or the next cycle, but you ought to keep that in mind, because we try and recognize systems that are performing really well, and designating them as outstanding systems, and then systems that are doing something innovative as well. So it sounds like there's a lot of potential there you ought to be thinking about. I think there's some really noteworthy things that are going on. I think much in the same way that you've described here at CAT in Savannah and Chatham County. First, in the area of workforce. Again, this has been a long-standing issue. It's gotten even more difficult, but this has been around for years that we've been talking workforce as one of the top issues impacting public transit. And a number of systems, and I think I'd have to point to Denver and LA, who have really taken it, I think, to a really another level, looking to set up strong partnerships with their community colleges to establish apprenticeship programs and training programs. So I think similar to what you were describing a couple of minutes ago, because they recognize they can't find all the talent that they need. And I think that has a lot of promise. Everybody's not going to come out to be an engineer, although we have a shortage of engineers and planners and such, but frontline workers. And oftentimes the talent for that and the training for that starts at a high school level, maybe into a junior college or an apprenticeship level at a community college. So I think those kind of partnerships is what we're seeing take root. Denver and LA have kind of been at the forefront over the last number of years with that. The other I would cite is something that Philadelphia is doing at SEPTA, and they're challenged with what we've been talking about here, homelessness issues, drug issues that are impacting the system, and them feeling the need to do something more. I mean, they have hired a number of social workers as part of their team, part of their staff, not just police and law enforcement to patrol stations and the like, to try and help people. And they've established partnerships with other local entities in the community to assist them with that. Because, again, as Chairman, you said, not everybody has that know-how.
Yeah.
It's not all going to reside in your agency, right? It doesn't work that way.
Right.
But you better find where it does and see if you can build that partnership and that connection. So those are just a couple of examples of what we're seeing.
Yes.
Very
strong point.
Very good. Well, I think that we have covered the waterfront. Or the entire transit route.
Maybe the
that's a better
riverfront
analogy.
here.
Yeah, better analogy. We've covered the entire transit route.
Well, we covered a lot. I'm sure we could talk more about all of these, but thank you for the opportunity to be here with you, the chairman, and with you, Faye. We love talking transit and the power of what you all do. And I have to applaud you for the work that you're doing here. You're on a great trajectory, doing the right kinds of things, and from my observance of it, endearing your community at large, meaning getting more attention to CAT as a really true community player. And that's what our agencies need to be. They need to be players in the community.
Well, our comms team has done a tremendous job of really getting the good word out about everything that we're doing, both Madison and Ariel Johnson have just done such a tremendous job, and we're so proud of it. And you'll note that every time it's the word that always comes to my mind. Every time they put a new post out, or they put a new video out, or they put something out, anytime it goes out on social media, I always hashtag it, #CatProud, because that's what we are.
I love that. I love it. That's great. Well, congratulations to you all. Keep up the great work, and let us know how we can help you.
Well,
Thanks.
Chairman, thank you so much for being here this afternoon. And
Thanks,
Mr.
Chairman.
Tellis, we are
Pleasure
so
to be with
delighted
you.
that you are in town.
Thank you, Faye.
And we look forward to having you through tomorrow and through our board meeting and hearing some good words from you there as well.
I'm looking forward to it.
And with that, we are at the end of another CATCast. We want to thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next month.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And that concludes today's CATCast. A special thank you to Faye DiMassimo, Paul Skoutelas, and Deidrick Cody. We hope you enjoyed the insightful discussion as they shared their expertise and shed light on the future of public transportation. As we navigate the ever-evolving landscape of transit, it is through conversations like these that we gain a deeper understanding of the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. Together, we are shaping the future of transportation, striving for accessibility, innovation, and sustainability. Finally, thank you to the listener for tuning in. There will be more exciting episodes to come. Until then, take care and catch a cat.